Don't move. Good luck. You already know. You're listening to the Forfeit Fatherhood Podcast. We're having conversations with dope dads covering the four pillars of fatherhood. We call it the Fit Fatherhood Formula. That's right. These dads are setting the pace in business and fatherhood. This show isn't only about the outside success. We're getting down to who you are. Gentlemen, it's time to get fit. And now, let's get into the show.
Been paying attention over the last couple of weeks. I've been talking about, like, if you see my story, you see I've been posting about just my focus lately on my own personal health and fitness, right? Like, I'm a strength and conditioning coach and all that by trade. Some of you guys know that, but I've been really dialed in on making sure that I'm hitting all the important things. So getting my workouts in, doing my meditation, making sure I'm getting, 10,000 steps a day, tracking my macros. Like, I'm trying to do a little bit of everything, getting yoga and mobility in. So if you guys have seen my story, you've seen that I've been, kind of posting some of that stuff. But what I'm going to talk about today, and hopefully I can get through it quickly, is some of the things I've just been thinking about, either through posting content here that you guys see on my feed or during my meditations, right? I found the time, or my walks, I found the time to think about some different things. And I'm actually reading a book right now called Spark. And one of the quotes from the book is the title of this, right? Is you're not chosen to lead, you choose to lead. And I heard that a couple of days ago. I read that a couple of days ago, and it resonated with me because as a man, as a husband, as a father, I am the leader of my household. I hope that I'm a leader in my community. I feel like I am, right? And it's not because I said I'm a leader, right? Like people didn't vote for me and make me a leader. Like, my kids didn't vote for me and make me the leader of the household, but they did choose me. Right. And I chose them. Like, I chose them as the people that I would lead. I am choosing to be a leader every day through my actions. I am choosing to be a leader by the way that I talk, the way that I come across to people that I meet, treating people with a certain level of respect. And I think that's something that's really important that we kind of lost sight of, is like, we get these roles and these responsibilities as parents, as fathers, as men in general. And we're like, I'm a leader. Right. I'm the head of the household. I'm a leader, but leadership isn't a title. It's actions, right? Just like father isn't a title. Father's an action word. Father's a verb, right? There's like a couple of songs like love is a verb. Father is a verb. Fatherhood is a verb, right? Being someone's father is not just, consummating your marriage or just having sex. And then, eventually you have a kid a few months later. Now all of a sudden you're a father. You're somebody's daddy, that's for sure. But I wouldn't call you a father if you're not actually taking action, right? There's action involved in being a father, right? There's the all the important P's, protect, provide, be present. But there's also nurturing, there's also coaching, there's also leading, there's teaching, there's discipline. There's all of these action words that are involved in being a father, and it's not just about the DNA, right? So when I say you're not chosen to lead, you choose to lead, you have to wake up every day and make a choice to be the man that they follow, right? And then what you also have to do is think about it this way, and this is something that I do often, and I try to be as self-reflective as I can, is, am I the man, or am I the leader, or the type of leader that I would follow? Right? Like, not because they're following me because they feel like they have to, right? My kids they're kids, right? I'm their father. They're going to follow me and do what I say and do what I do because I'm an example of what an adult is, and I'm their father and they love me. But if I were to put myself in their shoes, knowing what I know now, would I follow myself? Right? Am I showing up as the type of man or the type of leader that I would follow? And that's how I kind of hold myself accountable. That's how I measure that for myself. Is it, at the end of the day, when I'm taking, taking some time to write some things down in my journal, did I show up as a leader that I would follow? Or did I have some questionable things that happened throughout the day? We're like, ooh, man, I don't know if I would have followed leadership on that one. Right. because there are going to be times where mistakes happen, right? I'm human. I'm going to do some things throughout the course of the day that maybe I'm not so proud of, or maybe I could have done better. And through self-reflection and adjustments, I'm going to get better. But at the end of the day, if I can look back at it and go, hey, man, how did you show up today? Were you a leader that you could follow? If the answer is yes, then I get to sleep well at night. I don't have to toss and turn and think about it, right? But that comes with the decision to be a leader, right? It's a choice to lead. You don't, like, someone giving you the title is not enough, right? When you're the CEO of a company, or you're the owner of a business, you are the owner, and people will work for you because people need money. But people stay around because they like the culture that you create, right? Like, with high turnover jobs is because the culture sucks. They could pay good money, but people don't want to stay there because that's not the kind of job that they want, and they're not the kind of people they want to be around. Your family doesn't really have that option. Your wife might, she has the option, but your kids don't really have the option to, like, opt out and get a new dad and a new family. So it's the onus is on you, right? If the culture that you create in your family is super important. This is something that I got from, like, football coaches like Nick Saban and some of those guys, some of those great college coaches. They talk about culture all the time. And it's like, either you coach it or you let it happen, right? Your culture, the culture of your team, and you have these teams that have success over the course of time, like you have dynasties, right? It's not because they brought in a bunch of good players. Good players are drawn to those schools because of the culture. It's a winning culture, right? It's not like they just went out and yes, you can look at Alabama and say, oh, well, they got, there's 82 guys on the roster. They got 75 4-star, 5-star athletes. They do, but it wasn't always like that, right? It wasn't always that situation. It gets to be that situation because over time, leaders attract leaders, right? Stars attract stars. If I got a bunch of 5-star guys in the group, that makes 2-star guys feel really uncomfortable. But 5-star guys can go there and compete, and they like that environment, that culture. So if you're not coaching it, you're letting it happen. And the same thing goes in your household. If you aren't creating an environment that is successful and happy and loving and joyous, then you're letting it happen, right? You're letting the negativity happen. So that was one thing, right? There's leadership. And now I put that as a title, but that's not the whole shebang, right? Another one, we're talking about leadership and talking about vulnerability, and I was talking to one of the guys that I work with, and talking about vulnerability being a strength, and how for men being vulnerable is often seen as weakness, right? When people see you be vulnerable, and I think there's just some semantics to it, right? When we hear vulnerable, we think weak. Right. When something is vulnerable, we talk about, like, I don't know, armor, right? If there's a vulnerability in the armor, that's the weak spot. That's the spot you want to attack. But vulnerability in a man and a leader isn't that, right? When a leader is honest and truthful, then he's able to be vulnerable with his followers because they understand that he isn't invincible. He's a man just like they are, but he's able to open himself up, which allows him to be stronger, right? It allows him to overcome his weaknesses because he's not hiding his flaws so that his followers feel better about it, right? So that all kind of worked into me thinking about the one of my favorite movies is 300. And when 300 came out, I went and saw it in the theaters twice. Saw it in the theaters twice, and then when it came to I think it came to DVD, me and my brother watched it as many times as possible. Like, we watched that thing like crazy. Oh man, got kicked off the live. Let me jump back on this thing. I don't know what happened. I got booted. Anyway, so again, vulnerability as a strength. So going back to vulnerability, thinking about the movie 300. Again, when it came out, saw it in the theaters a couple times. Came to DVD, saw it, rented it, watched it a few hundred times. But the reason I bring that up is Leonidas, right? Leonidas is the king. He's the leader. He's not just the king, though, right? He's also in the trenches with his guys, right? He's in the battle with his followers, with his people. But when we talk about vulnerability, we look at a guy like that, or we look at Spartans, and all we talk about is their strengths, how strong they are, how strong of a leader Leonidas was, or how strong the legion of Spartan fighters were, right? But when you really look at it, each one of those men individually had a weakness, right? Because as an individual, he could not take on was it Xerxes, right? As an individual, they couldn't do it, right? Their strength of the Spartan was the other Spartans. Even the way that they fought, right? They linked up. They got their shields all linked together because that was the strength of the Spartan was other Spartans, right? But when we talk about vulnerability in Leonidas specifically, there's a scene in the movie where he throws the spear, right? The spear, he throws it and it hits Xerxes and he draws blood. So it proves that the god isn't a god because he's bleeding like man, right? Which you know, if you watch it, you get that part. But if you listen to it when it's happening, they say he dropped his shield, right? I just mentioned the shield is like one of the most important parts of a Spartan's armory, right? He drops his shield. Now he's vulnerable to attack. He removes his helmet. Again, vulnerable to attack. But he's doing all this. He's creating all these vulnerabilities so that he could show strength in throwing that spear. As men, as husbands, as fathers, if you're in the right situation, and I know this is probably one of the things, right? Because I hear guys push back on this all the time. Is like, if I'm vulnerable with people, they take advantage of me, right? And that's if you're with the wrong people. If you're vulnerable to the wrong people, there's the correction. Because if you're in a relationship with someone who is, and I'm talking about your wife or girlfriend, your whoever, your significant other, if that's the right person, you can be vulnerable with that person. If you've created an environment in your household where your wife and children, can rely on you and trust you, and you guys are connected in a way that's really special, you can be vulnerable. They can see you as vulnerable and not see you as weak. They understand, actually become more endeared to you because you become real. Like, you are your child's superhero, right? You're the first superhero that they see, and you keep that image as long as possible. But just like we know, Superman has a weakness. Superman is super strong. He's faster than a speeding bullet, stronger than the steaming locomotive, whatever the words are, right? But he has a known weakness, right? And it's a rock. Like, dude is you know what I mean? Like, it's like being allergic. He's allergic to a rock, right? But if we are Superman to our family, we have weaknesses. And if they know those weaknesses or vulnerabilities, and we're honest about what those vulnerabilities are, then they are stronger connected to us and can be stronger connected to us, right? They are able to realize that we're human. And so when we're going through things, we don't have to bottle it up, right? Because when we bottle things up, right, and we put things in a bottle, what typically turns into is like a Molotov cocktail, right? It's not just a bottle anymore, right? It becomes explosive. We put all our feelings in there and it becomes explosive, right? It eventually explodes and causes us issues, right? So we have to take advantage of our opportunities where we've created an environment where we can be vulnerable, where we can, be open and honest and caring, and do that with the people that we care about, right? Here's another thing. Kings don't live forever, but they become immortal because of what they accomplish or what their kingdom accomplishes during their rule. Right? When we call ourselves kings, we're the king of the castle, king of the household, king. Here you hear guys call each other king from time to time, not all the time, but you'll hear it every once in a while. And we all want to be the king of the castle, of our castle, right? But we know kings only have a certain amount of time where they rule, right? Just like you're only going to have a certain amount of time where you're alive. What lasts the test of time, though, is what you do while you're the king. Because there's kings that we know of. I just talked about one, like Leonidas. I don't even know if that's a real person, but like what they did during that time in that movie echoes through history. Right. And we're just talking about a movie scenario, but there are obviously other kings that we know of, right? King Henry VIII. There's these people. There's good kings and bad kings, right? The things that you do during your reign as king echo through eternity. Will we be immortal? Are we immortal? No, but our actions are. Our household and the things that we do within that household can be, right? We are going to instill in our children something that will last forever, right? Because if I pour into my children, right, and I treat them well and I do things, right by them, I discipline them, and I teach them whatever they need to learn, then they can go out into the world and pass on the things that I taught them to their children and to your children and to other people, right? And so the thing that we have to do as leaders is we start in our household and we lead our household as well as we can, right? We do everything in our power to make sure that we lead our household in a way that is honorable to us while we're alive. If we do that, when we're gone, all the things that we taught, all the things that we created during that time will live on forever, right? And so I'm looking at it as this. Like, I definitely want to be, and I've said this before, I definitely want to be the old grandfather that's sitting, in the chair at Christmas time while everybody comes over and they're asking grandpa all these stories. I tell them stories about how I used to walk uphill 10 miles in the snow, even though we live in California, uphill 10 miles in the snow, come back down, right? I want to be able to tell all those stories. I want them to be able to say, my grandpa is this and my grandpa is that, right? But even after I'm gone, I'm still going to be someone's father. They're still going to refer to me. My daughters are still going to refer to me as my dad. Now, what they say after that, right? After they say my dad, now with the blank is determined by what I do in this time frame that I have left, right? I just turned 41. I don't know. Like, I imagine I live a pretty healthy life. I imagine I probably got 40 more, right? Don't know that for sure, though. I could walk out of the door and it could be over. So how I live my life and how my legacy is carried on is based on what I do right now and what my daughters fill a blank in with. My dad blank, right? And so I, past sitting in the chair at Christmas when my family comes over, I want to be immortalized through my actions. I want to be immortalized maybe even through my words. I want to kind of live on, because I'm going to be a father forever. Like, I feel that strongly about fatherhood. Even after I'm gone, they're going to be like my father, my grandfather, my great grandfather, right? And I'm setting up my life and living my life in a way that when they say those words, or they say those two words, whatever happens next, if I'm looking down on them, I'm going to be proud, not of myself, but just of what I was able to accomplish. Like, I look at my great grandmother before she passed. She was 97 or 98, and I'm thinking about like all the things that she saw in her life. Like, she passed in 97 or 98, right? So I mean, she was in the early 1900s. She was born. And she was born in Louisiana, like right on the border of Louisiana and Texas. So you can imagine what she saw in her lifetime, all the progress, right? But then to see all of her children and her grandchildren and her great grandchildren and all they were able to accomplish, like to be able to look at that and see like your whole family tree in front of you and be like, man, I did a pretty good job. Right. And now this is a prime example. I'm talking about her 24, 25 years after she passed, right? About how amazing she was. And I still talk about her to people to this day because she was a phenomenal woman. Right. And that's the kind of life I want to live. And if I'm going to continue to call myself a king or the king of the castle, the king of the household, what kind of king do I want to be? Do I want to be like the evil king, the mad king? Right. When people talk about me, are they going to have negative? When my daughters talk about me, are they going to have negative things to say? I posted a video, Joyner Lucas, that got a lot of like back and forth conversation in the comments. But when he's talking about his father, he basically says that every time he hears a call from his aunt, he's hoping that she says that his father is dead. That's not the kind of king that I want to be, right? I don't want to be like, the king that's remembered for all his shortcomings and all the things that he did wrong. And that's not because I'm going to hide my shortcomings and the things that I did wrong for my children. I'm going to be open about them because I'm working to correct them. I know that I'm going to make mistakes. They know that I'm going to make mistakes. They know I'm not perfect. And so when I make those mistakes, I'm accountable to them and they're okay because they know dad's going to fix it. And by doing that, I'm showing them that they can make mistakes and they can have things happen and they can change and grow and become better because of my example. Right. So it's not about, like when I talked about vulnerability a second ago, it's not about hiding your weaknesses or your flaws or your mistakes or your shortcomings. Being open and honest about those things and putting them out there with the people who you care about. right? And trusting that they're not going to hurt you with them. That's the kind of environment that you have to create inside your household. That's a thriving environment because we all can depend on each other. We can hold each other accountable. We can be reflective, self-reflective, and socially reflective about our situations. And it helps us be better as a leader and them as followers. The last thing, because I got a tax appointment. Boo. I'll answer a question before I get into it. As a 22-year-old single father of two trying to keep grinding but still struggling, how to continue to put on strength and keep going. Man, so 22 years old. When I was 22 years old, I had just graduated college. I could not imagine my brother, me having two kids at that time. So I'm going to go ahead and give you some flowers right now. The fact that you are already, and I don't know your situation, you say you're struggling, but it's obviously you're getting it done. Congratulations to you, right? You're already doing a great job. The fact that you're even on this page right now and you're asking these questions means that you have the right intentions, and your intentions are going to help you create the actions that are going to get you to where you want to be. I think the tough part about it is when you're a single father, and I a single parent in general, like just because I got a wife and I got I got a support system that we've cultivated and created. You guys that are single parents, you guys are doing God's work. You're doing phenomenal work. Because raising two kids, and I got pretty good kids, but raising two kids, even with the help, is a hell of a lot of work. So for those of you that are doing it without, you have my deepest you have the deepest respect for me. What I would say though is, even though it's just you still have to find out or find ways where you can be refreshed, right? Whether that be, working on your health, your fitness, or eating better, getting sleep. You still, at the end of the day, those children are dependent upon you, right? If there is no you, then they suffer. So you have to take care of you. And I say this all the time, and people push back on it because as fathers, we're supposed to be protectors and providers. But if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't protect anybody. We damn sure can't provide for anybody. If I'm sick, I can't go to work. I mean, I go to work, but I'm not supposed to, right? If I'm not taking care of myself and I can't spend the time with them because I'm physically unable to, then am I being present? Right? All the things that we want to do for our family, sometimes we sacrifice ourselves in order to do them. And that's okay, because we're the father. As a leader, leaders eat last, right? But leaders eat. And that's what we have to make sure that we do, right? Because we'll take that whole idea of leaders eat last and we won't eat at all. And then when we're struggling and can't provide, then nobody eats. So at some point, you have to make sure that you are feeding yourself and the things that make you happy, the things that keep your battery charged, so that you can continue to pour out, because you can't pour from an empty cup. I hope that answers your question, right? Looking to move out of state with the family in hopes of bettering our lives. Any suggestions upcoming years? Appreciate it. What state you moving to? That's a big one. Well, what state are you moving from? I without knowing that, I can't really say a whole lot. Yeah. It's terrifying to me too, dog. I can't imagine having to do it without my wife. She's my rock star for sure. So definitely. Dadsrice.com. I see it all that. From Texas to Arizona. I mean, I've been to both states. I would say they're pretty similar. I mean, I think anyway, from where I've been, they're both hot as hell. Compared to California, both are relatively inexpensive. Especially Southern California, LA area, depending on your situation, obviously. I would say, when you get there, one of the most important things is and I say this about everything, but community, right? Trying to get yourself plugged into a community there, because that's going to help it feel like home. You move there and you buy the house. Let's say you move there and you buy the house of your dreams, but you don't have any friends or family. Your kids don't like the school there. You don't really like the neighborhood, or don't have all your favorite stores. The house is fire. That's cool and all, but you're not going to feel home. You're not going to feel welcome. So trying to find a community to plug into when you get there, right? Finding a good solid friend group when you get there. Maybe hop on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, and start looking at some of the community groups in the area that you're moving to. I think that's one of the things that we really like about where we live is it's not like a gated community or anything, but the community is really, really tight knit. There's thousands of people who live here, but everybody kind of knows everybody, and makes it really cool is because we kind of all look out for each other. We support each other's businesses. We support each other's adventures. We do like community events all the time. Like that kind of stuff is really cool. So I would say, try to figure out if you can connect in to something out there that's similar to where you are right now, that gives you some kind of a home feel, right? Like it's always nice when you go somewhere, like you go visit somewhere and you get some what they call comfort food, right? Like you're not home, but it makes you feel comfortable, right? And so I would say try to find some comfort food in the area that you're going to. I think that'll help tremendously, especially with children, right? Because as a kid, I moved every 2 years from like the age of 5 until I was 16, I think. Every 2 years we moved for one reason or another. My mom and dad split up. My mom was on her own. We moved a lot from different places. When she got with my stepdad, we lived with him for a little bit. Then they broke up. We lived somewhere else for a little bit. And then they got back together. We moved back in with him for a little bit. And then we moved to a new house. And we moved to a new house and moved to an apartment. Like, money was tight. So we was getting, kicked out and bounced around and all this stuff was happening. And so, the places that I would call home were places that I connected with people, right? And there was a community feel or vibe, or where I kind of plugged right in with what was going on there. So that's my advice. Hopefully that helps. If I was in high school, what advice would you give me to assist as I help them now? So the fathers are high school students. I'll wait for I'll go to this and I'll come back to it when you answer that. I'm assuming that you mean they're high school students, and I don't want to assume any further than that. So I'll wait for you to answer. Another thing that came up for me, and it's kind of been okay. All right, cool. Let me jump into that now then. Young fathers. That's a super tough one, right? Because, and I talked about this the other day. I was on another live, and we talked about this. There's these transitions in life that we go through from from child to adolescent, from adolescent to man, from man to husband, or man to father, right? They kind of all happen relatively quickly. These are the big transitions in a man's life. And without guidance, without leadership, we run into those transitions and we have what was essentially a crisis, right? With young fathers, I think what happens is as we go from being a boy in this particular situation, they don't even get to manhood, but being a boy, and then you become a father and you have this laundry list of responsibilities without any blueprint or any footing on being a man first. And so what I would say, especially for the younger guys, is really, really, and it's repetitive advice, but really hone in on who you are and who you want to be, right? Because if you can build that young man who's just become a father into a better man, then whatever title you put on top of that becomes better, right? So if you're pushing him to become, like, let's figure out, okay, you're 16, 17, you become a father. Well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because you're growing up quickly, and we need to figure out what that is. What kind of man do you want to be? What kind of father do you want to be? What kind of husband or, boyfriend, baby dad, whatever it is, who do you want to be in that situation? Now let's work towards that. I know that there's going to be a whole bunch of responsibilities that come up that you're not ready for because you're a kid yourself, raising a kid, but you're going to embrace those, right? Because God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. So you got this one. You must be strong. Let's be strong. We're going to show up that way. And so let's build you up to match that, right? Because if you're one of the strongest soldiers, but you're currently not showing that you are, let's figure out ways to do that. Let's get you some emotional intelligence. Let's get you some financial literacy. Let's get you physically looking and feeling like a man that can lead a household. Let's do those things and build up the man that we are first, because that's going to help us in our fatherhood journey. And I hope that helps. That's a tough question to answer, though, because everybody's situation is really, really specific. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to keep pushing forward. I got to wrap up here I got 5 minutes. So let me hit this last one. And then if you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer them if there's time. This one came up for me in my morning meditations in the sauna, and is sweating profusely as usual. But this is something that I heard Denzel Washington say. And And then the particular meditation I was listening to kind of mentioned an old Japanese or Chinese proverb, and the two kind of made sense. So Denzel said, when you pray for rain, you have to deal with the mud. And this was in the movie. You pray for rain, you have to deal with the mud, right? A lot of us are in a drought season or experience these drought seasons, very dry periods in our life where things aren't going the way that we want to, and we're praying for some rain, right? So we can have some growth and some encouragement and something to kind of push us or help us move forward. The only problem is when you get rain, there's always going to be mud. Like every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if I get positive, there's going to be some negative that comes along with it. We have to find it. Just so you can see, people get successful and then they have people who hate on them, right? There's just a natural thing, right? It happens. When like I started this live, and I don't know if it's this one or the one that got cut off before, but there's some negative comments like right off the bat. I didn't even say nothing. I just kept rolling because I know that there's going to be some positive that comes along with it, right? Because that negative reaction is going to bring a positive reaction and vice versa. So when you pray for rain, you're going to have to deal with the mud, right? Like you're going to get the growth that you want, but there's going to be some dirt that comes along with it. There's going to be some uncomfortable stuff that you don't really have to deal or want to deal with, but you're going to have to deal with in order to get the growth that you want. The other part of that is the Japanese proverb, which is with no mud, there is no lotus, right? It means no flowers if there is no mud, right? There's no mud if there is no rain. So all of that is just to say, like, as we move forward, as we continue to pursue our goals and push forward our goals of being a better man, a better husband, a better father, there are going to be ups and downs. There's going to be a time where we feel like we aren't doing enough. There's going to be times where we feel like we messed up, right? We're going to get to the end of our day and we're going to be writing in the journal like, damn, I didn't show up as the father that I wanted to be today. I wasn't the type of leader that I would follow today, right? But I know that that's a part of the process, right? That's the mud, right? And I'm, as we say now, I'm gonna get it out the mud, right? I'm going to go through this, like you just said, with my mud boots on, right? Stomping like a big dog. And on the other side of it, I'm gonna grow, right? Because there's growth on the other side of that, right? If I plant a seed, it's buried and it feels like, and a lot of times, and I heard this, and this is like a church thing, right? It's like a lot of times we feel like we're buried, but the real thing is we've been planted. And if we stay down and we get watered and we get nurtured and all of those things, then we sprout up. So sometimes when you feel like you're buried, it's just because you've been planted. Your time of growth, your season of growth is coming, but you have to go through this dark period first. It just is what it is. There's no way around it. But like Jay just said, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? Being underneath means eventually you're going to be on top. So you got to take that as an opportunity for learning, an opportunity for growth. Look, for all you guys that jumped on here, super appreciate you guys taking the time. Comments. I'm gonna try to do more of these. I've been saying that for a little while. I'm gonna try to get on here a little bit more frequently, probably do more Q&A style. This one, I just happened to have some free time. I had a meeting that ended earlier than I expected. So I had like 30 minutes of free time. So I hopped on just to see what you guys are up to, answer questions, kind of talk about a couple of things that I've been thinking about. And then, here we go. Thank you. Right. I super appreciate being a vessel, right? And that's all it is, just being a willing vessel. Like when I see stuff that I think can help, I post it. When I think of things I think can help, I post it. When I have opportunities to talk to people I think can help, I talk to them. I'm just doing what I'm called to do, and whether I like it or not, right? Because I got up at 4:25 this morning. I definitely could have took a 30-minute nap right now. Like, you know what I mean? I definitely could have went and laid it down. I just started watching Shogun, which I get like 5 or 10 minutes here and there. I could have watched 30 minutes of that. You know what I'm saying? Like there's things that I could do, but I'm just trying to be, a willing vessel and take advantage of the opportunities that God has given me every day, to pass on whatever message that is necessary to pass on. Right. And that's it. So let me get out of here, because if I don't get to this meeting on time, my wife is not going to be happy with me. And the tax guy is not going to be happy with me either. Pay your taxes, drink water, get some sleep, Start putting yourself first, right? You can't take care of anybody if you're not taking care of yourself. You can only give what you have, right? Like, I can't give anything I don't have. And if I don't have love, I can't give love. If I don't have peace, I can't give peace. If I don't have, I don't know, there's a whole laundry list of things that can fit under that umbrella, right? If I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of anyone else, right? I have to protect my body in order to be able to protect theirs, right? And so if we're going to be protectors and providers, I got to provide for myself, take care of myself. You guys take care of yourself, and I'll see you later. You just tuned into another episode of the Forfeit Fatherhood podcast. Thank you once again for listening. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow me at You Can Call Me Coach on Instagram. Also follow the podcast at Forfeit Fatherhood, the number 4 and the letter U on You Can Call Me Coach. Go ahead and flip over to the next episode, man. I know you love this one, so you'll probably love the next one. Excited for you guys to hear it.